Most second homes are sold on what they give you. Ice, sunlight, dirt, a view. The lunar far side is sold on what it takes away. Earth's radio noise, the chatter of civilization, the ionosphere that blocks the lowest frequencies. Behind the moon, the bulk of rock becomes a wall. That wall is one of the last truly quiet radio environments in the inner solar system. This is Second Skies on the Quantum Files. Episode 3 is not another underground city tour. It's about silence as infrastructure, and how easily we can break it with unshielded electronics and opportunistic bases. Every phone tower, radar, and Wi-Fi router on Earth contributes to a fog humanity no longer notices. Astronomers notice. They have been fleeing that fog for decades. First to deserts, then to orbit, now to the hidden face of our nearest neighbor. The far side is not dark in the optical sense. It is quiet in the radio sense, and that quiet is the product. Episode 3 is the anti-postcard. The far side offers no orange sunset, no cloud deck, no hydrocarbon lake. It offers absence of Earth noise. And that absence must be defended like water in a desert. Low-frequency radio astronomy below about 30 to 50 megahertz cannot be done cleanly from Earth's surface. The ionosphere absorbs and refracts those waves, and human transmitters drown faint cosmic signals. The far side offers attenuation of terrestrial interference by enormous factors, plus a stable, dry platform. Concepts like far side propose interferometric arrays across kilometers. The Lunar Crater Radio Telescope concept imagines a kilometer scale mesh in a crater, deployed by climbing robots to listen to the cosmic dark ages, the era before stars fully lit the universe. These are science machines first. Settlement language comes later, if at all. Radio quiet is a commons. Once spoiled, it is hard to recover because emitters multiply faster than regulations. Unintended electromagnetic radiation from ordinary electronics can swamp faint cosmological signals. That makes far-side planning a governance problem as much as a landing problem. Second Skies treats policy and shielding design as part of the habitat story. Calibration of low-frequency arrays requires understanding galactic foregrounds that can be orders of magnitude louder than the target cosmological signal. The far side helps with terrestrial noise. It does not magically remove astrophysical foreground complexity. Protected zone proposals only work if actors comply. Compliance needs monitoring, incentives, and consequences. Governance is part of the sky. Signals from the cosmic dark ages are faint whispers compared with galactic synchrotron emission and solar bursts. Building an array on the far side does not delete those louder sources. It deletes our own cacophony so algorithms can separate layers. That distinction matters when politicians ask why we need another moon project. The answer is not romance. It is signal-to-noise ratio for questions about how structure formed in the early universe. 30 megahertz is not an arbitrary line. It is where Earth becomes a jammer and the moon becomes a receiver. Interferometry on the far side needs baselines measured in kilometers and phase stability measured in millimeters. That combination turns a quiet sky into a precision factory. Far-side studies explored arrays of dipoles deployed by rovers, each node a small emitter unless disciplined. LCRT pushes farther, a hanging mesh inside a crater, stowed compactly, open like a lens aimed at the past. Neither concept needs a shopping district nearby. Both need power through 14-day nights and relay paths that do not shout over the science band. Think of the ionosphere as Earth's own noise curtain. Below 30 megahertz, it folds and smears signals until cosmology drowns. The far side removes that curtain for the downward hemisphere. Not perfectly, because galactic sources remain loud, but enough that interferometers gain sensitivity orders of magnitude beyond desert dishes. That gain is the business case. Romantic lunar vistas are not. Silence is fragile. Rovers, landers, habitats, and satellites emit unintended electromagnetic radiation. Power systems and computers leak into science bands unless carefully designed. Researchers have pushed for protected zones on the far side so the quiet is not casually destroyed by the first wave of lunar industry. That creates a second skies conflict distinct from path to Mars logistics. The enemy is not only distance, it is our own convenience. A sky that is valuable because it is empty of noise becomes worthless the moment we fill it with careless gadgets. Farside-class arrays and crater telescopes need power through lunar night, precise deployment, calibration beacons, and data relay around the limb to Earth. Crewed support, if it ever exists, must live under a mission discipline that feels extreme compared with a normal Mars base. Silence becomes a daily practice. Deployment rovers must place antennas with positional knowledge good enough for interferometry. Precision on dusty regolith is a robotics problem with thermal and night constraints. Science return includes dark ages cosmology, heliophysics, and potentially exoplanet magnetosphere signatures. Those returns justify discipline that tourism will resist. The protected Antipode is not a metaphor. It is a geographic commitment. Bases sited for polar ice or launch convenience can still leak across the limb if orbiters relay carelessly. Spectrum allocation on the Moon may become as contested as spectrum on Earth, except the stakes include hearing the infant universe. LCRT-style concepts add another engineering drama. Suspending a mesh inside a crater using rim-mounted anchors and climbing robots. That is not a flag and footprint moment. It is infrastructure assembly in vacuum with millimeter precision. Success would prove the far side is a factory floor for instruments, not a suburb waiting for domes. Treating the Antipode as protected real estate requires treaties with teeth, not press releases with flags. Orbiters over the limb are the telephone booth to Earth. Design them wrong, and the far side becomes a noisy suburb with good views. Surface links using fiber or laser relays must be routed so maintenance vehicles do not broadcast side lobe energy into the array main beam. Even robotic landers carry switching power supplies that whine at harmonics. Testing emissions on the near side first is cheaper than apologizing after commissioning. Spectrum regulators on Earth already struggle with 5G versus aviation altimeters. Multiply that conflict by a factor of lunar industry ambition, and you glimpse far-side politics a decade early. If humans support far-side observatories, they may live nearby in shielded habitats, with strict radio discipline, relay satellites over the limb, and operations culture that treats emissions like contamination. That is a different social design than a tourist dome. It is closer to a monastery with reactors and robots. Power through lunar night, dust and thermal swings still apply. Lunar frontier covered habitat reality. But the unique second sky's stake is preserving a commons of quiet for the whole species. Conflict with lunar industry is predictable. Mining, tourism, and navigation constellations want spectrum and convenience. Astronomy wants absence. Without protected Antipode concepts and enforceable norms, the quiet sky dies by 1,000 practical decisions. The drama is not villains, it is incentives. Data relay from the far side needs orbiters or surface links around the limb. A quiet science site still depends on a noisy logistics chain carefully isolated in frequency and location. Dust lofting and charging near arrays can affect hardware. Lunar environmental engineering remains relevant even when the unique product is quiet. Cruise schedules may revolve around emission blackouts, windows when transmitters sleep so receivers can listen. That operational rhythm is alien to Mars base culture, where more bandwidth usually means more safety. Here, less broadcast can mean more discovery. Faraday cages, filtered power lines, and screened data buses become as important as oxygen regulators. A laptop charger with dirty emissions could cost weeks of integration time. Training crews for radio hygiene is slower than training them to dig regolith, but the skill protects a resource no amount of mining can recreate once spoiled. Support crews who never transmit during integration week may save more science than crews who never sleep. Human presence near arrays is optional. Human discipline is not. A crewed support base kilometers away still needs clean logistics. Screened rovers, filtered habitats, and procedures that treat a firmware update on a consumer device like a biohazard. Tourism marketing will push for Earth livestream bandwidth during quiet integration. Scientists will push back. Second Skies sides with the integration calendar. Relay satellite constellations around the moon are tempting for global coverage. Each satellite is a potential leak. Designing constellations that store and forward during science windows, instead of broadcasting continuously, is an ops culture shift commercial space has not yet adopted. On pressure and resources, the far side loses to Titan's air and Venus's buoyancy band. On science uniqueness, it can win months of argument in one sentence. Nowhere else nearby lets us hear the early universe this cleanly. On habitability for families, it is harsh. On strategic value, nations may compete for access and then accidentally spoil the prize. Second Skies keeps that score visible. A world can be priceless for knowledge and terrible for a backyard. Score the far side honestly. Terrible for casual settlement. Extraordinary for low-frequency cosmology and certain SETI-adjacent searches. Moderate for strategic prestige. Weak for ISRU, compare with poles if you are far from ice. Strong as a reminder that not every second sky is a house. Some are instruments. Power through the long lunar night forces nuclear options or massive storage. Silence does not remove thermodynamics. Schedule pressure from national programs can push emitters into quiet regions early. Second Skies flags that risk because once contaminated, the unique sky is degraded for everyone. Mars offers maps and ice narratives the far side cannot match. Venus offers pressure bands the far side lacks entirely. The far side's wind column is narrow but deep. It's the best nearby place to listen to what Earth makes impossible. If your personal scoreboard ranks backyards first, the far side loses. If your scoreboard ranks cosmic context first, it may top the list, provided we do not ruin it while rushing to build everywhere at once. Compare quiet to pressure. One axis sells temples, the other sells towns. The far side is temple class. Nations may fund far side hardware for prestige while starving quiet enforcement. That mismatch is how commons die. Second Skies argues for coupling landing rights to emission budgets the way ports couple docking to pollution rules. Without coupling, the quietest sky becomes a race to broadcast first. SETI-adjacent searches at low frequency share hardware with cosmology. A quiet moon benefits both. Spamming the band with unshielded industry hurts both. The scoreboard row for quiet is also a row for curiosity about signals we did not build. Near term, robotic arrays, pathfinders, and international rules for radio quiet. Midterm, larger crater telescopes and crewed support if logistics mature. Speculative, a permanent science nation on the far side that treats silence as law. The compelling hook for viewers is simple and slightly uncomfortable. The quietest sky left is already under threat from the same expansion story that funds the bases. Human support habitats would need Faraday-aware design, emission budgets, and cultural norms that treat a radio whisper like a spill. That culture is rare and must be trained. Compare to near-side lunar bases. Easier Earth view, worse radio environment. The far side trades convenience for a commons of silence. LCRT-style crater deployments remain mid-term ambitions tied to climbing robots and precise mesh tensioning. Engineering drama worth watching even if no family ever moves in. Near-term pathfinders might deploy dipole chains across a few kilometers before anyone talks about kilometer-class apertures. Each step validates quiet operations and relay architecture. Skipping straight to industrial parks without quiet zones would repeat Earth's mistake of building observatories beside highways. Except the highway would be on the moon. Speculative science nations sound romantic until you write the emission code violations. Write them anyway. Mid-term LCRT-class deployments may take a decade of robotic prep before a single science photon arrives. Near-term dipole pathfinders still justify the wait if they prove relay and quiet ops. Speculative domes do not. The episode's pacing mirrors that latter. Instruments before inhabitants, always. International coordination may mirror Antarctic treaty logic. Science-first zones with limited industrial footprints. The moon is closer than Antarctica and more tempting to monetize quickly. Second Skies argues quiet zones should be established before landers multiply, not after activists discover ruined data sets. Next time, we leave fixed ground and ask whether near-Earth asteroids are mobile real estate or spinning traps with no weather and no second chances.